knee replacement.
This is Scott.
I'm good the rest of
And
the
right
year.
here, we were the 30th highest in the state in 2020. We jumped,
Just calm down,
without
bro.
raising our budget, we jumped 3 positions. And that tells me right away that other townships are lowering their budget. They were cutting. That's how we jumped. But we should.
Watch your step if you go
We're
this way.
126.
Hey Denise, living the dream.
Hi.
And then down here, this is another one.
What?
And I think
You want to start in?
No, I'm not in the same thing. I'm learning.
I do.
Hello, how are you?
So I'm living the dream. Yourself?
I'm right there with you.
I don't care.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I have to go.
Yeah, man, I'm looking right at you, man. I got
Address and crap.
never mind. Go on.
Just make sure you have some.
Have been for 65 years.
I just printed everything just as it was.
help you think I am.
64.
Oh, it does. Oh, it's like,
You know better, huh?
I already printed it out. I've got all mine, I think.
Okay, so nothing else for us then?
You get stuff for me?
Are they?
You want me to?
Somebody.
Oh, it's just
Price
right.
change well.
You probably did it.
Candy changing well.
We'll just get a case of math.
There's a, Denham Street, it's called. This is.
If y'all want to have comments later on, we need you to sign in so we can know who's, we want to make sure that we're represented by Madison Township, so.
Oh, you have things to say, just in case?
Just in case.
Watch your step, Crip. I don't need you breaking more legs on.
Pretty wicked scar there.
Oh, is that where the metal was sticking out?
That's where they put metal in.
Nice. You're a cyborg now.
Normally I'm one of those cyclists on the road, but I haven't been able to ride yet.
I'm sorry.
It's 10 mile.
Unless you're middle.
Good.
Don't you trip on my cord.
I'm not.
Can I take your pen for a minute? Hello? Just wanted to say hi.
You're welcome. I think I just have to
Well, this is enough, hang on. No, it is. Kristen, I just gave you one. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have two of the same also. On the same one. I only have one. Yep.
What do you think, guys? You know, get a copy of certain one? This is the one I've got.
This is the one, that is not the one I have. I'm missing this one. Yeah, I guess you probably, you just need signed copies, right?
Yes, the other day.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Let's stand for pledge of allegiance to the flag, and after that, we'll remain standing for a moment of silence or prayer, whichever you prefer. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Have a seat if you would. All right, we need to take a look at the meeting, or minutes from February 24th and June 8th. Is anybody that wishes to make comments, everybody signed the sign-up sheet for that? Anybody that wants to make comments, not signed up? All right. All right. Let's start with the first one, which is the 24th, is that correct? 17th. 17th's been approved. 17th's already been approved, so the 24th. Questions? I don't have any questions. Any questions?
What day was this one from?
This one is from February 24th.
No, this one. Is this the June 8th one?
Yes.
June 8th.
Any questions on the minutes? All right, do you hear a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll second.
Jim Johnson makes a motion. Amy Russell seconds. All in favor? Aye. And those minutes are accepted as written.
Oh, nope, wrong one. Just in case. Denise will get one and Scott will get one.
All right, moving on to the minutes from June 8th, our last meeting. Questions, comments?
Just a misspelled name.
Bill Smith, oh yeah, it should be an A, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Should be Jordan, Russell, not Jordan.
How'd you catch that?
How did I catch that?
I don't
I don't know. I was gonna say his family does the same thing.
It's a miracle. All right, do we have a motion to accept the minutes as presented with the correction?
Yes.
Okay, so Amy makes a motion to accept the minutes. Jim Johnson seconds motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Is there an actual system for that?
Yeah, I should probably say that. just had a couple questions before we get started, because we do have a guest here that we need to get to. And I'll let Scott introduce him. But the first question I have is, do we have a update or the status of our new apparatus that's ordered?
We are hoping that we're gonna do an inspection next month.
Next month?
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
November?
Yeah.
It continue getting pushed back.
Yeah. So, whatever that means after that,
It means January.
probably,
That's kind of where I'm
probably.
expecting to.
Next September.
That's 3 years. We've already got $45,000 in interest paid on that vehicle. What about our other drive vehicle, Tahoe?
It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, chip shortage is not supposed to get any
yeah.
better till 2022 from what I hear.
They've given an updated estimate, delivery estimate, and it's been ever since I took this position, and it's changed.
Yeah, they just
Time
keep pushing
and
it back.
So,
Well, yeah, if you look at the car dealers, they don't have
Right.
anything on their lots except used vehicles.
yeah.
That
So
includes
unfortunately, I
vehicles.
don't have much of an update on that.
Okay. Now, just as a matter of question, is there any possibility to cancel that and reorder later if we decide we'd like to purchase one at a later date?
I honestly, I can't answer. I can't imagine that they would at this point, but
Yeah, but given the circumstances,
Yeah.
it's always, I mean, we don't know, but all we do is ask. But I'm just saying because, we ordered that, December of last year?
Mhm.
Yeah, here we are in September, so, and I'm sure a lot of people have done the same thing, requested to get out deals because of it. So,
Yeah.
anyways, that would be something I think because I don't know, what is our plan with the vehicles that we currently have and the one ordered?
until we get the new one, I mean, we have not had that discussion yet.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna let Scott introduce our visitor tonight. That way we don't hold him up. I don't know if he wants to stay for the whole meeting or not.
I'm staying for the entire meeting. So.
Okay, well,
All right.
let's go ahead and,
We'll see. Go ahead now, you talk, go ahead and
Okay,
introduce
sorry.
yourself. He's our new financial advisor.
Yeah. My name is Ben Raker, the financial consultant. I guess later this evening, we're going to have a public hearing on the annual budget. And in 2 weeks, we're going to reconvene and the board's going to adopt the annual budget, levies, and rates. Right now, I'm bringing to your attention an opportunity related to the annual budget. Is to go ahead and increase the maximum tax levy level by the state. The basis is that township-wide property value has increased by almost 25% over the past 3 years. Because of that, we can go ahead and petition the state to get an increase in our tax levy. The tax at issue would be about $12,000 a year of revenue, or 1% increase to the annual tax levy. If it's going to be pursued, the board would need to adopt a resolution this evening prior to budget adoption, so we can go ahead and petition to the state next week because there's a deadline of next week. So that's the resolution that's in the packet this evening. Also, in doing so, as part of that, because property value has gone up so much in the past several years, the board to go ahead and pursue this levy appeal. We would be able to maintain a level tax rate as part of the 2022 budget for next year. Is on the Form 4. So, any more questions? But I guess we'd be looking for action on the resolution if we're going to have something to be pursued.
do we have any idea what that would break out as far as what each taxpayer would be responsible
It'd be about
for?
0.2 of 1 cent be the rate
Per dollar.
per $100 of assessed value.
And can you break that down Barney style just a little bit? If we had a $100,000 home,
Yeah, $100,000 home. Assessed value that's going to be just about $2.
okay, thank you.
$2 per hundred or $2 period?
$2 per 100,000.
Period. Oh, I do the math real quick. Sorry about
As I
that.
said, I thought I was at $22.
I'm sorry?
By my math, I thought it was $23.
It could, and apologize, yeah.
Sorry for asking you to do head math.
I should.
Let's go. Go ahead and ask your question while we're waiting.
Okay, one of the statements that he said was property values are going up. And sometimes, if you've looked at your property tax bills, you'll notice that maybe the rates aren't going up tremendously, but because you are assessed a lot more money, your taxes have a very high increase. So my guess is you not only will have a very high increase this coming year, if the values are going way up, as he states, but this would be added to that additional tax.
You got a number?
Doing that right now.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Here's the deadline. Next week.
I'm still getting $2.30. I think it's like 10% less than that. Or he said $23. I thought it was $2.30.
Oh,
So,
per household.
yes.
Per $100,000.
Per
$100,000.
Per $100,000.
2.3 cents per $100.
Yeah.
2.3%.
And 10 minutes.
I think that is what he said.
Okay,
You need to say that.
come back to that. in
Just say it,
a little
yeah.
bit. I'm sorry?
It was 2.3 cents per $100, right?
No, it's 0.2 cents.
Oh, 0.2.
$2.30 per 100,000. So if you got a $300,000 house, it's gonna be $690. And I know yours is worth at least that.
Not what I got.
I'm just kidding.
Ours?
I'm just kidding. Let's move on to the budget for now, and what I would like to do is go through this budget. There are several categories, only like 4 categories, 5 categories, something like that, 5 or 6 categories. Go through each category and discuss each category, take questions on each category, and then move on to the next category. Because if we go through the whole thing, you may have a question that you forget by the time we get to the end. And in all fairness, we would like to hear what the residents have to say about the budget and so forth. And so we'll start with the first, and the board will ask their questions first, and then the public can ask their questions. Those who have signed up on the sheet, that is, okay? All right. Is anybody on the first category is the general, and does anybody have any questions on the general fund?
Larry,
Yes.
I believe the comment section, can we get through the budget and the salary resolution and leave that towards the end?
Maybe take notes on the back of the meeting minutes?
I would prefer not to, because someone may have a question that they forget by the time we get to the end. I just think in all fairness to everybody, it'd be easier to just go through category by category. We only got like 5 categories, so it's not like it's like the annual budget meeting, or the annual, yeah, not the budget, but the annual report. I have a, go ahead, you have a question?
No, that's fine.
Nothing on that one? You got any questions on that? I do have one question on that section, and that is the professional services and legal services. And we have not been utilizing $18,000 a year, so I would like to see that number decreased to about $9,000 a year.
So let me make a quick note. I told you earlier, the salary of clerical help is not 23,042, it's 22,927. You all wanna make note of that?
You said 22,907?
22,927?
That's what the budget's gonna be?
Yes, the typo.
And I'm assuming care of cemeteries we're paying for the mowing, but the other is the case we should have any other costs involved.
And trees and stuff like that we have to have removed. That's correct.
A follow-up question on the professional services. With the hiring of our financial advisor, will that eat up that $18,000?
That is a replacement.
A replacement, okay. Do you cost more?
He doesn't know, but he's taking a hit, no.
I guess my comment with that would be, I would want to see what has actually been paid out for legal services, maybe for the last 2 years, to see if it would make financial sense to lower that or not.
I'm sure Denise can get you that information.
Well, and you have to understand too, in 2020, we had a lot of legal services due to the fire territory. So that is, I think it was like $11,000 we spent on that, so.
On the legal services, just kind of an update from fire department operations side. The state has just recently, and they did a horrible job rolling it out, but they recently passed a new, I don't think it's a law, I think it's a rule. The attorney corrected me on that. It's a state rule, and currently we operate under our hospital medical director's DEA license for our medications and narcotics that we use on our ambulance. Moving forward, and we're in the process of filling out all the paperwork, getting the licenses and all that stuff. Moving forward, we can no longer operate under our medical director's DEA license for narcotics. We have to have our own license for to purchase narcotics. We have to store them. We have to have we have to meet all the DEA standards and all that stuff. So there's going to probably be some legal that's going to need to be involved with getting us through that process. The state, like I said, they passed the rule and they really didn't tell anybody, and then they finally said, okay, well here it is, and the deadline was 3 days ago, literally. But we still got to do it. So we're trying to play catch up, and it's a statewide thing. Everybody's trying to do it, so the applications are going to be, take even longer to process. So there will be some legal fees involved in that. Just it's a brand new area that we've never had to deal with before. So we're going to make sure we have our I's dotted and T's crossed.
Is there any way to find out from the attorney what he thinks the approximate cost might be in this process?
I would say no, because it's going to be he's never had to do this either, so it's a brand new thing. So it's going to be a kind of cross that bridge when we get there, and when we have questions, we're going to have to reach out to him. So
If this was adopted 3 days ago, wouldn't most of that come out of this year's budget?
it wasn't adopted 3 days ago. It was back in the end of last month when they adopted it. So we've been in this process for
So it should still come out of this year's budget.
Correct. The initial costs for the additional equipment and things like that, yes. We're just now in the process of filling out the application, the DEA license. It's I want to say a 52-page, is Margot here?
Yes.
52 pages?
It was 64 pages.
64-page application for the license, and that's step one. That's for the federal license. Then we have to go for the state So it's not gonna happen
It's not gonna happen
in 2 months. So,
And we really couldn't plan for this year's budget if we didn't know about
Well,
it.
we understand that. We're just trying to figure out, based on information we're getting, what it should be for next year.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're gonna incur some of that this year, obviously,
yeah.
and there's some already in the budget. I mean, $18,000, we should be able to,
I'm giving you information
yeah,
that
that's
for
what
when
we're,
you,
and that's what we're looking
for
for.
when you make the decision on how much you're gonna take it down to, just keep that in mind.
And we appreciate that, because that helps us in our decisions. Any other, yes?
Concerning the insurance, are we still in the high rate category?
I do not know.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's not changed. Excuse me. They've not reclassed as have. I've not heard of them. Yeah, I didn't think so either.
Okay, the budget is supposed to be posted online by September the 14th, and it never seems to be done timely. I'm not sure what the problem there is, but, you know, I believe that's in the law, Indiana code, and, we don't have it posted timely. I think you guys have to think about a little bit, our annual report wasn't approved. I know Scott, when he was on the board several years ago, he lowered the clerk's salary down to 0. I'm not suggesting that, but there were some issues, and like I said, when you're writing a check and it's not even in the financial report, we don't have internal control here, and we've got some issues going on, some major issues.
So I think we're kinda getting away from, what we're discussing here.
Sure are.
So please,
Well, I don't
can we
think so.
please leave
I'm
no
talking-
public comments?
I'm talking about,
What is the deadline?
We're supposed to just post it 10 days before.
There's no,
I have no idea.
it says, no, it says
Denise,
on
what day
the,
did you post it? Cause I know
When
it
we
had
were
to have
ago.
been pretty close to that.
it was posted on the 26th at 9:11 PM.
The law changed several years back, and now the drop dead deadline will be October 11th, but it's 10 days in advance of the public hearing.
okay,
So October 2nd would have been the deadline.
Which
so
it-
that
it was.
has changed.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
That's not what it says on the website.
Well, we can find out.
Either way, I
Get
still
clarity
think there
on that.
was adequate time for it to be, if it was posted on the 26th of September, it's the 12th of October. There was adequate time to review it.
Are there any other questions on this section?
So real quick, based on the DEA stuff, we have our workers' comp, we have our general liability, our umbrella coverage, all that good stuff. Will this DEA require a separate insurance? Recommend?
I would recommend.
Okay.
I know, because I am no, so I will be holding the DEA license.
Okay.
Therefore, I will no longer be operating under my medical director's malpractice insurance.
Okay.
We have not had any narcotic discrepancies thus far since I've been in this position. If something were to happen, having malpractice insurance and a good legal representation is what I need from the board, from the department to back me holding this DEA license.
Our medical director has that insurance for a reason,
Yeah.
and the license is under him currently, and it's not gonna be moving forward, so that would, definitely be
So
new.
I'd be willing to
That's a
get,
very good point.
Well, if we're gonna run our own EMS services, there are gonna be things that come up that are gonna be beyond our control. That's
so
just-
I will look into a price for that.
All right. Any other questions on that section? All right, moving on to township assistance.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
Social Security says 931, and that's only on salary $3,000. What's the rate of Social Security now for our side? You know,
1765, I believe.
931 is a little high then.
Yeah, it doesn't work out.
$614.
how much activity are you seeing on the poor relief side?
They've really gotten me lately, so I've getting a bunch of phone calls. You know, moratoriums are coming to an end, and it's almost daily I'm talking to somebody.
And how many hours a week would you say you're spending on that?
It just
Roughly.
depends.
I understand, but
Maybe, I don't know, 5 minimum, 3 to 5, so.
so you'd say poor relief is increasing over the last part of the year.
There's a lot of benefits that was given out because COVID is gone. It's going away.
There's a lot of stuff that is going away.
And it's only going to get worse.
Do you have any questions?
I do think the poor relief should still be cut on the personal services, because almost the whole year, we didn't pay out 1 penny. And when you look at townships that have even higher populations than ours, and I did a little comparison a couple years ago, and I can update it for this past year, but most of the townships don't even pay for an investigator. The township trustee and the clerk handle that as part of their job. And when you look at how much we pay out in comparison to these other townships, that there's a couple of them that do pay, we are, and I put ones that had higher populations than ours, we are way above what these other townships are paying. And also, in 2020, we spent $8,000, which of course included a lot of the, $8,000 for a poor relief, but we advertised for $18,362. So I would think that could be cut, and even if we needed some additional monies, you can always do an additional appropriation, but our budget was over $10,000 more than what we spent. And also, I'll say this just because, but I think too, it's crazy that our poor relief, when we have nobody even getting poor relief, and we pay all these utilities, insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, out of the poor relief fund.
You mean the allocation?
Yes, absolutely.
For the last several years, I've always had a little concern about how high the poor relief is, because we've never really done a whole lot with it. We've done some, obviously. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing the poor relief taken down a little bit myself. And I'm thinking more like 30,000 versus 38,000. Any other questions on that section? All right, let's move on to fire. Do you have any questions on fire? Okay. I do have a question on fire, and that is fuel. Fuel right now, we've got budgeted at $23,000. Last year we used $17,000 of the fuel. I've been kind of monitoring the fuel, and I'm going to use July as an example, just because that's the one that comes to my mind. July, everybody knows that we have a contract with Mooresville School System to buy our gas there. It runs through July of 2022. It's $1.81 a gallon. And in July, we spent $377 at the gas stations. And they were not out-of-town gas stations. They were Mooresville and Indianapolis. And at $3.25 a gallon versus $1.81 a gallon, we can save ourselves some money right there. So if we were to drop our fuel down to about $20,000, and it was $17,000 last year, that's still a $3,000 increase.
So, on that, we have options for fuel, the school bus garage, and Speedway gas stations. We have been going to the bus garage solely for as long as I've been in this position. Our Speedway cards expired, and the bus garage was doing some, we didn't realize that they had expired because we hadn't been using them, and the school bus garage was doing repair to the concrete pad. So we could not, they had it
Okay.
roped off, so we could not get in.
All right, well, that explains that, but what I'm saying is, in the future, though, if we'll stay away from the gas station as much as we can, obviously, you're gonna have exceptions. I mean, that's just, that's life.
That's what we do right now.
Yeah, that's life. So, but if we were all to concentrate on participating at the school instead of going to the gas station, we can save a little bit. That doesn't sound like a whole lot, obviously, but it adds up. Everything adds up and adds up and adds up. We want to do other things. We want to do and improve things. We got to help ourselves improve those things. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because of the budget. We got 23,000. We spent 17,000 last year. We cut it back to 20,000. We're still ahead of last year, and we're still got some room to wiggle in case we have to go to the gas station. You know, I mean, that's just the way it is. How many gas cards do we have now?
I would have to
2,
count.
3?
No, what do you mean?
Speedway gas cards.
Every apparatus has
Each
one.
apparatus has one.
Okay, so then all the cars have them too. Is there a way, since we're on the subject, I'm just going to ask an kind of a wayward question if I can. On like lawnmowers and weed eaters and things like that, is there any way we can separate that out on the one, so as we're looking at the invoices and so forth, we can say, yeah, that was for that car, no, that wasn't for that car, it was for some other item or something? Is there a way?
I would have to know what code is being used for those,
Okay.
for the equipment.
I just think it would be easier for all of us to be able to follow along. Because I'll be honest with you, I looked at July, I saw a time frame of July 20 to July 23rd, and that was probably when they were doing the concrete, obviously. But I saw where there was a charge on one car, and that's why I asked, because there was a charge on one vehicle for $93.75. And I kind of scratched my head because they only have 26-gallon tanks on them, so it didn't jive.
Right.
So I figured it had to be, it was that vehicle and something else.
And it, I don't know, off the top of my head, it could have been when our cards were expired and the bus garage was having maintenance.
Well, that's what
We
it could have
had
been that time.
we had 3 or 4 cards that were not expired, so we were taking turns with, you know.
Okay, and I
Fueling.
understand it, and that clears up a lot of, because if you look at that, and here's my dilemma. If I look at that and I don't know what's going on, I'm scratching my head and going, it doesn't jive. And you start asking questions like, what's going on?
There's a very easy solution to that. Pick up the phone and call me.
Well,
All you have to do
when
is
I don't
ask.
when I don't get the invoice though till a month or 2 months later, and then we're having a meeting, I'm gonna ask a question.
We're 4 months past it, and I mean, I still remember.
I didn't have that invoice in July either. But that's
So
all right.
operationally, I'll say he was being a steward of the money.
I would say so too.
Because he contacted me, I drove down to the bus garage to see if we could finagle and fit something. We held off on the fuel in the tanks as long as we could, in hopes that the garage would get their project done so that we could reutilize the garage. In statements from him many times that the bus garage is cheaper.
You know what? I didn't.
Right, I'm just explaining that-
I understand. I wasn't suspecting any
Right.
devious anything or somebody stealing or anything like that. But it just
Sure.
kind of was a what happened type
Well,
thing. Not,
All I'm saying is that
Listen.
in the future, I would love to field your phone calls so that I can answer those questions so they don't come up and we don't have to deal with it in a board meeting. That's a simple, very simple fix.
well, also, I believe firmly that the taxpayers need to know what's going on too. I mean, not to cast blame on somebody or anything like that, just a way of information. Anyways, yes,
Just a
Denise.
quick note, the school is not timely with their invoices.
No, they're not.
And, in fact, I had to chase one down from late last year, that we ended up not having to pay for. So in 2020, we got a free month.
Yeah, and that
But
is about
yes, they're not-
$1,500 to $1,600
Yeah,
right
they're
there.
not timely, so.
They're not timely, because I've noticed at times we've paid probably 2 gas bills at one time.
Yeah, a lot of
Because I'll
times
see
they'll
a-
send several at a time.
Right, so,
Which is why you get them late.
yeah, and that's why initially, when I looked at it, it says $3,000. Well, it must be 2 months, and so I went back and looked to make sure that that's what happened. And no, the school is not timely. So, any other questions on that issue? Or on this?
What is the policy on the take-home vehicles and the fuel use there?
We've covered that in previous meetings, and that's not really a budget issue.
It's not?
Well, Greg's question is to the board, so the board is.
I couldn't tell you what the policy is.
Well, what I'm getting at, is that part of the fuel cost that we're discussing at this moment?
Yes.
Then why is it not an appropriate question for this moment?
It is.
It is a good question, because we are discussing fuel costs, how we
Yeah.
can minimize and maximize and do what we need to do. And be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. And I think they do a good job of that, but that is a good question. And that was, and the question, and we'll delve into that later, because I've got a couple questions for you. I'll give you a jingle or something. But, there's, Chief and I will talk about that, and I'm sure we may even get Mr. Scott involved in it, but we're gonna probably sit down and talk about that. Because that's I got a letter from a concerned citizen in my mailbox, and that was practically the only issue it dealt with. So I want to share it with them and go from there. I do think, in my personal opinion, and this may be the case, I don't know, that if the chief or deputy is not on duty, perhaps their vehicle ought to stay at the station.
But
And I don't know if
they
that's
don't
the
have,
case.
they don't have set hours. They're not ever on or off duty unless they discuss that amongst themselves. But there's not like set schedules, if that makes sense.
Okay, so now, that leads me to another question then. And this does deal with fuel costs and so forth. Are the vehicles all being driven to other jobs and to homes and those sorts of things?
Homes, yes. I mean, they're issued to
I understand.
certain chief officers. So homes, yes. We had a fire at 3:30 this morning. I got up at 3:30 this morning and I went to the fire.
Okay.
So homes, yes. Other jobs, no.
All right, so nobody's taking another vehicle to their other job?
Nope.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All right, let's move on. You have a question?
Well, I was just wondering too, if in the budget anywhere was any kind of GPS monitoring that would help know where all our vehicles are at what times. Another thing, I think, I've been mentioned a couple times to me, wondering why we don't, when someone calls in sick here, it seems like we pay a lot of overtime here, and I think
Not enough staffing. That's your problem right there. You don't even have to go into detail about that. You've got a staffing issue, 100%. So there's gonna be a lot of overtime for the few that actually do
that
show
the
up to
fire
work.
chief and the deputies take over those shifts that
They
people
absolutely
call.
do. How many shifts did you work? How many shifts did you work?
Yeah, quite a few.
Well, somebody had mentioned to me that doesn't happen here, so I didn't know.
It does.
So, thank you.
Just this Sunday I'll be working.
All right, fire equipment debt. That's pretty much set in stone. There's not a thing you can do about it. It's a loan and you're gonna have to pay it. End of story. Cumulative fire fund. Right now, what do we have? We have the radios and monitors coming out of our Q fund. And, yes,
On the fire equipment debt, I know you made a comment about this, but I just wanted to reiterate it, which is pretty sad. We bought this piece of equipment, or paid for it, got a loan, we don't have the piece of equipment, so we must not have really needed it that horribly. And we have paid out over $43,000 of interest so far on that loan.
That is no fault to the fire department, though. I mean, welcome to 2021. There's nothing anybody can do about that.
No, that's not. the
No,
fire
I'm just
department's
making a
fault.
statement about a lot of wasted money that, you know, and
But I mean,
not-
it would have been paid
and it's not the
regardless.
fire, I agree with you, it's not the fire department's fault. But it was something that was voted on that, you know,
We've
it's a
also
lot of
spent,
money.
we've also spent $50-ish thousand on maintaining our trucks because they're old and they're starting to break down. So your comment saying that it was not needed is
We haven't,
couldn't
we don't
be
have
farther
it.
from the truth.
My
So
point is, we don't
need
have it,
We
we
just
don't
can't,
need it.
I can't force them to deliver it tomorrow. I needed it last year.
No, you never did need that.
Okay, all right.
That, I mean, that's opinions, so.
Are they still giving us $100 a day on the,
They are.
Is that in writing?
They're
How much
supposed to,
have
it's in
we-
their contract.
let's say, do
But
we
they haven't given
know?
us the money, it's gonna be all settled at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, right now, they're not actually physically giving us money.
Well, I
It'll be
just
all
didn't know if
settled.
we had a running total of how many days late
Oh,
they
yeah,
were.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you
And we have-
know off the top of your head, because I'm nosy?
Since it was due for delivery Christmas Eve last year,
Yeah,
2020.
And it's
So,
$100 a day, and
day
we're
after
almost
that.
at 365 days, and likely will be at 365 days.
Probably.
The original cost was 800,000, so we're gonna get it down to at least
Rough
500,000 at least.
No, the $100 day will be applied towards tools to be put on the truck.
So we'll still spend it.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, but
Yes.
it's not spent on top
But
of
that's
the
less-
$800,000. I understand.
yeah.
There is I will say this much, in the fire, there is a maintenance, there is an additional $10,000 for vehicle maintenance, which I personally don't have an issue with because we do need to maintain the vehicles that we do have.
And just for discussion purposes, if you're kicking around the idea of reducing, the fuel budget, I would request that you move that to the maintenance.
I don't have an issue with that personally. And I'll tell you why I don't have an issue with that, because maintaining the apparatus, the size of the equipment is costly. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. to figure that
50-ish
out.
thousand so far.
Yeah.
2 months left to
It's-
go in the year.
And I think prices on maintenance is only gonna continue to go up. You're talking, what are you guys paying now in labor, over $100 an hour?
Yeah, I've been on the phone for the last couple, 2, 3 few weeks, even just going through tire dealers, trying to find better tires and cheaper tires.
And nobody wants to give you a break either.
I know in the last meeting we discussed maybe some potentially erroneous charges with the replacement of that engine on that really new ambulance. And I don't know, I'm not a mechanic, I don't know the costs and charges. I just knew that it had seemed really high for something that was relatively new. Have we considered adding like reporting and things like that? Sending out those invoices to the board so that they can get a chance to look them over and make sure that the mechanics aren't fleecing us, because we know that my brother works at Big O and his job will take him an hour and you're getting charged for 4.
I
So,
don't think we had erroneous charges, I just don't think we, and this is my opinion, based on looking at the invoices, I just don't think we negotiated as well as we should.
And,
No, that's what
per
I
that
meant.
comment last meeting, I more than spent my time on the phone negotiating, changing brakes and oil here this last month, so.
And I appreciate that, and I'm sure the taxpayers appreciate that too, because, we're all supposed to be stewards of the taxpayers' money. And it takes time. I was in the automotive business, I tell you, it takes time to try and track that stuff down and try to get a good deal and find somebody that you can trust and all that sort of thing.
And if
It
there's
takes time.
anybody that's gonna find a good deal, believe me, it's this guy sitting to my right.
Well, then we'll continue to expect good deals out of you, from you.
I got $60 off batteries, so there you go.
Hey, there you go.
it just would be really cool if we had those invoices or something, like a report, just so that we know that you guys are. We want to be able to trust you, but as we know, not always can you trust people. So, I want to trust you, I want to keep trusting you.
I get,
Aren't we supposed to be getting maintenance reports,
Yeah, I
like
think
we did
I was just gonna
a year or two ago?
ask about maintenance for, when Chief Lang was here, he used to do support of maintenance on the vehicles. If we could get something like, at least the board could get something like that, I'd appreciate it, because then we can kind of purview it and see what's going on. And, not that we don't trust it, we just want to make sure we're all doing our due diligence. You want to do your due diligence?
Always.
Okay.
Promise to listen to the phone calls.
Now, let me get back to the CUME fund where we were headed, which is the last item. On the budget, that is. If I can find it. Yeah, I found it. It's $164,000 on the CUME fund. We do have radios and monitors coming out of that. What's the amount? Do you recall off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. We have.
When is gear due?
We have that coming out too. About half of the CUME fund is
That's
already
what
spoken
we're called,
for.
yeah, for the radios. And that's only gonna take us, what, 3 or 5 years? What did we settle on? Do you remember?
I don't remember
That was
either.
right before me.
Margot probably knows.
5 years.
5.
5 is
I
5?
was going to say 5, but I wasn't sure.
I was thinking we took the loan route for some reason. I think it was because it was going to eat up so much of the CUME fund if we went 30. What else is coming out of our CUME fund that we're not,
You didn't include the gear.
gear, the turnout gear?
So all of our lease purchases come out of the CUME fund. So monitors, radios, gear. Like I said, that's about roughly half of the CUME fund. And with the status of our new fire truck coming, tools are going to have to come out of that at some point, with the remainder of the balance of the ladder truck coming out of CUME fund. I'm hopeful it comes out of this year, but
Would be
we'll
nice.
see.
Have you received a list of the tools? Remember in the last meeting, you asked for a list of tools that
No, I haven't, but I'm sure Chief will get me a list.
I literally just got that list a few days ago, about 2 days ago.
I would just say be cautious about the CUME fund because we've had issues here already, as you know, this past year, where a car gets purchased and all 3 of you board members made comments that you weren't very happy about that, and it could happen again.
Did you have a question? Comment?
No.
Can I got to address that before we move on. That vehicle was purchased from the capital improvement plan that was approved by the board. It may not have been these 3 board members. That capital improvement plan was approved by this body. So it wasn't just a whim purchase that was made.
Can I ask a favor?
Sure.
And this is in, again, in due diligence. It's not to be rude or honoring or anything like that, because we obviously want to continue with the type of service we're providing. When we're getting prepared to make a purchase like that, I'm sure Scott is informed. Is there any way the board can be informed of any large purchases so that we're aware of it and we don't get blindsided?
Sure.
Because I know that it's kind of, I don't want to say embarrassing, that's not the word, but it's more aggravating, I guess, than anything, to come to a meeting and they'll say, oh yeah, we spent $40,000 for this or whatever. It'd just be nice to know ahead of time so that we're already cognizant of it. We're not going to get shocked when we see a bill or something. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Taxpayer here, Madison Township. A question for the trustee. Whose ultimate responsibility is it for fire protection in this township?
Are you asking me what, I'm
Yeah,
sorry?
whose legal obligation is it for fire
Oh,
protection?
it's the trustee's office, yeah.
Okay. How many times does the board and the trustee meet with the fire department for operations throughout the year?
We can't meet as a group unless we have certain things. There's certain criteria, as you know, that we can only meet on. But as far as one-on-one, we can do that anytime, but not since I've been here
So how
7
many
years.
times have you done that this year?
That's what I'm saying. I just told you, Eric, 7 years I've been in this office, or almost 7 years, closing up on, and never once has that happened.
Okay, I see a public meeting here where there's a whole lot of questions being asked, and you're the legal bound body for fire protection. You're protecting my family and my property, and you have no idea what's going on in this fire department. How is that even possible? You make no effort to meet with this administration. You have no idea what the day-to-day operations are in this fire department. and you leave it for one taxpayer to come here and slam the fire department and the administration like she knows everything that's going on, and you're the legal responsibility for fire protection in this district, and you have no idea about what the day-to-day operations are of this fire department. That's embarrassing.
I do.
Well,
That's embarrassing.
well, Eric, in all fairness, somebody.
I just want to
does.
say I shouldn't be involved in that because I am very involved.
Guys, I come from several other organizations that board meets with that fire administration on a weekly basis so that we're not asking these questions in front of the public and making ourselves look like idiots. You should know about every purchase that goes on before it's made. There shouldn't be somebody out here in this audience asking why we bought something. You should know that before it happens. We've got to fix this, guys, if we're ever gonna, this isn't Madison Township 1975. If you haven't realized, Heartland Crossings are our population of 1980. We've doubled in size, and this fire department hasn't changed much in the last 20 years. We nitpick about $20,000 in gasoline. Guys, wake up. You're doing how many runs a day now?
Way more.
That fuel tank on that truck out there will take 300 gallons of fuel. Sorry, $300 worth of fuel if you fill it up. So $90 worth of gasoline, yeah. Can't put that in the staff car, but I can go put $300 of fuel in a fire truck out there. All I'm asking, guys, is, you know, yeah, I got some personal interest in here. I've been on this fire department for over 30 years, but I'm also a taxpayer. And over the last 60 days, we haven't had fire protection in this township for probably 50% of the time. What is our standard of care? What's the standard of care? You guys have a standard of care?
Back up the bus just a minute. You said we didn't have fire protection?
Yeah, you don't have any idea, do you? What is our standard of care in Madison Township?
We should have firefighters on duty all the time.
We should, shouldn't we?
Yes.
Last 60 days, we haven't been there.
Can you be a little more specific?
I don't know, you're the ones that are legally responsible for fire protection. You tell
Well,
me.
you're the one that's telling me that we don't have protection 50% of the time. And
For the last 60 days, you haven't had your standard of care. You haven't had a full fire station for 50% of the time over the last 60 days.
Goes back to what we talked about before we came in here, Larry. That's with the wage piece.
You guys have to do something now. Quit bickering about these little bitty nickels and dimes and figure out how you're gonna staff the fire department and protect our families, your families. You live in Fox Hill. The bells go off right now, or bells go off tomorrow morning when there's 5 people on duty and 2 of them are at the hospital. That's 3 people coming to your house that's on fire. You know what those 3 people are gonna do?
No, our house isn't going to burn anyway.
They're gonna stand out there and watch it burn until
Just wait.
somebody from Marion County gets there.
well, let me ask you this. We have mutual assist with us. Obviously, we're going to get there first, I would hope. But we also have mutual assist, so we're trying to do what we can. Now, as far as nickel and diamond, I could go on, and I can put together a bunch of money that we haven't prioritized right, that we could use towards the effort. Now, that's why I sit up here and do what I do, because we have to be good stewards of what we have so that we can provide for our
It comes to
firefighters.
management. Who's managing what? If you don't meet with anybody, you're not managing anything.
Well, and I will tell you this much, in the past, I will tell you, I've only met with the chief once after he took control, or took the position, I should say. Personally, I've only met with him once. And maybe we do need to meet more often, and I would agree with that. But I'll tell you what happens, and this is my opinion, based on my opinion. There is not transparency both ways. Just like I was saying, when we don't know about what's being spent,
If you come in and you sit down with the fire chief or his staff, and they can lay this out and say, here,
Yeah, we got records showing everything we spent,
here's
so
the
you're welcome.
specs on what we wanna do next year or next week,
and you know what?
and you have an opportunity to have lunch with them.
I suggested that last year too, that we sit down and,
I'm sure these guys would be more than happy to sit down with you as long as it's civil.
well,
And
yeah,
explain to you what they're wanting to do.
Greg.
I want to point out, though, that legally, that this board is not allowed to
As a whole.
meet
He
As
already
a
said
whole.
that. We
Yeah.
can't meet as a whole.
Yes.
Yeah, we covered that a little bit ago, Greg.
I know that.
Oh, okay, I didn't
just
know if
wanted
you heard
to-
it.
I heard it. I wanted to reiterate that.
There you go.
I
Thank you,
wanted
Greg.
to emphasize that particular point.
But the chairman or the trustee or members can meet.
Yep.
Individually.
You can come in at 9 o'clock, he can come in at 10 o'clock, she can come in at 11, he can come in at noon. There's ways around it, guys.
Yeah, we can start at
We're all over the state.
7, 8, 9. I'm good with that.
And I will say, I heard,
I don't know
I
about
heard Greg say I have a vested
Does
interest.
that work?
Yes, you have a conflict of interest.
Conflict, he said
Oh,
conflict.
a
not
conflict.
vested.
Well, that's here nor there. But
Right.
if I were in your position, I would want somebody in my position because I hear the phone calls. I see what happens. I see the emails. I know what's going on behind closed doors that these guys don't always know. So when something happens, I can put a way more educated vote and decision on something than these guys can because I'm hearing the phone calls, because I'm sitting at the firehouse, because I see what is happening. So if I were you, I would be happy that I'm in the position that I'm in because I'm getting that inside knowledge that these guys aren't always privy to.
1985, that particular argument was made, and that changed Title 368312 to allow police and firemen to sit on boards. But after the General Assembly realized that local government, the costs of local government began to soar after 1985, and police and firemen began to take over the local boards of local government. They changed the law back, saying that police and firemen could no longer sit
Well,
on the
but
boards.
regardless,
This is
this has already
1985.
this has already went through the attorneys. It's already been proven there's not an issue.
All right, hold on,
So-
hold on.
So we're
hold on.
past that.
Hold on.
We're past that.
We're not here to discuss conflict of interest, we're not here to discuss any, we're here to discuss a budget, okay? And communication is very important.
She brought it up.
I-
Guys,
No,
all-
actually, you
Hey.
did.
Oh, come
All
on,
All I'm
guys.
asking is, as a taxpayer and as a firefighter here, we're way past worrying about this stuff. When we look at paying a firefighter $13 an hour, why would you want to make $13 an hour when you go to White Castle and make $20 an hour?
Yup.
Thank you.
You
Yep.
can go to Max Car Wash and make 16.
We shouldn't be arguing
Chick-fil-A makes
little
16.
stuff like this. $2 difference on a $100,000 house. What are we even arguing this about?
Nobody's arguing about that, we just got the facts
We
on it.
wasted
We
15
wasted-
minutes on trying to figure this out, and Trudy's over here trying to figure out how we're gonna afford $20 on a $125,000 house. We spend $20 when we go to McDonald's. How many times a week? Guys, we're talking about saving somebody's life.
Okay, let's move on to the budget if we
Now,
can.
this is kinda serious.
I know it's kind of serious, and we'll take that up, but right now, we're talking about the budget, okay? And we don't want to get off track here, we've already got off track numerous times,
Okay.
and that's one of the things that happens in these meetings.
Okay.
We get off track because
Okay, I just noticed you seem to give her the floor the majority of the time, and I just.
she
tried to
was the
take
only one
5
asking
minutes.
questions, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Thank you.
If other people have questions, I'd be more than happy to address them. Yes.
Can I just state that the question asked about how much the tax rate would be was so that there was transparency and so that the taxpayers did feel a little bit better about that levy? And that while Amy does have like an in with her husband there, and it's awesome that you have that inside knowledge, I would just love to see the entire board also have that same kind of relationship. I mean, obviously, don't go marrying firefighters because
I will.
y'all are already
I
taken.
will tell you this, and I told
They have to be
the
open to
chief
it.
this. I'm afraid to walk in the fire station because of the animosity that's been built up over the years.
You have to meet us, Larry.
I'm
Come out
afraid
and
to,
meet us.
quite
Come out and
frankly.
meet us.
And you know what? I've come
Just come
into
out and meet us.
I've come into the station.
I'd love to make
We'd love to meet you.
breakfast for
I've
you
come into the
anytime.
station twice.
We'd love to. We're
I'm
all
coming-
right
I-
here.
I-
Come
and
on,
we'd
come
love
on.
to see you.
I've come in the station twice. Can't find anybody.
Because they're on runs. Is the fire truck gone?
No, the units. Mr. Buckrock and I talked about this. Chief and I talked about this down at Station 31. All the units were there. The board was there. The ambulance was there. Everything was there, but I couldn't find anybody. Now that's a problem. Okay.
Was there
Now-
staffing for that day?
Yeah, there was staffing, there was cars there.
I guess my input on that is this. These crews don't work your typical 9 to 5, 8 to 4 job. If their house duties and training is done for the day, regardless of what time it is, they could potentially catch an EMS run or a fire run literally at any second. These guys could be called out before I finish this sentence. If you couldn't find them, there was a good potential that they were probably sleeping. I'm assuming that's where you were going with it, right?
And I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all, because I understand they work 24-hour shifts. I understand that they
Mr. Ellis,
yes.
on each station, right at the front door, there's a little round button. It's a doorbell. You probably have one at your house.
Don't be smart, Eric.
All you have to do is push
Eric,
it,
don't be smart.
and somebody will come to the door.
Don't be smart.
No, I'm being serious.
No, you're,
If you push that button, somebody will come to the door if they're at the firehouse.
But I just want to say, I felt like that's where your concern was going, was that they were probably sleeping or whatever. And hopefully they were, because if my house catches on fire, like it almost did just a couple of weeks ago, I'm hoping that they're going to show up well rested.
let's go back to, and I'm more than happy to drop by the fire station as long as I know I'm not gonna get eaten up by somebody.
We'd
Quite
love for
frankly.
you to come over and have dinner, have breakfast, have lunch, anytime you want.
Only eating we're gonna do is maybe some bacon, biscuits and gravy.
Guys,
Oh,
seriously,
I'm
the
in.
best way for you to understand what a pickhead axe is, or what a pike pole is, when Chief Buckrock says I need to buy 5 pike poles, is for you to come to the firehouse and see what it is.
Well, some of us know what some of that equipment is. I mean, and I understand where you're going.
I get it, but I mean, when he tells you I need to buy a certain type of equipment, the best way for you to know what that is to come to the firehouse and see what it is and why we need it. When she says she needs an EKG monitor and why it needs to be this type, if you come and you see what that is on the apparatus and what it does, have her demonstrate it for you.
Well, Eric, if you remember correctly, I was on the board when we decided to buy the radios and monitors, because I know that they're needed. And quite frankly, I'm not afraid to vote for something that's needed. I think you ought to have the tools that you need to do your job, just as I need tools to do my job. You should have your tools. But what I'm saying is, there's been such an animosity in the past that the new board comes on, and they're like, I don't know what's gonna happen if I walk into the fire station. Now, I hope that is gone. I hope it's wiped away. Because quite frankly, I'd like to know all of you. And I know quite a bit about equipment and so forth. So that's why I can say, yeah, we need that or don't need that. But I also want to take care of the taxpayers' money while we do it as well. And yes, we do have a problem with retention. And part of it, I hear, is benefits. Okay? Well, if we get our house in order, and that's, we aren't going to say it's out of control or anything, but if we're controlling everything as best as we can, maybe we can provide more benefits and we can keep help. But we've got to make sure that we're spending our money wisely to be able to afford those things.
How do you do that if you never meet with the people that you put in charge of the place?
I'd like to make a comment to her comment. I
being serious, how do you do
100% agree with you that we should work better with them. And I don't mean to put the board on the spot with this comment or call the board out, but I took this position April 3rd, and I would have to pull emails, but it was maybe even a couple days before April 3rd that I sent an email to all 3 board members. Amy contacted me literally immediately, and I think we met that same night. I literally didn't hear from the other 2 board members for 2 months. I reached out multiple emails. I called both of their homes. I talked to Larry once, about a month after the first email, and he said that he was going to get back to me with a date that we could sit down and meet. And a month later, I finally had that meeting. I've still yet to talk to Mr. Johnson one-on-one. I would, and how many times since April have I said, call me, an issue. When you brought up the issue of walking into Station 31 and finding no one, you said it was unlocked. I walked right in and there was nobody there. Call me. That's an issue. I need to deal with that. That's a security issue. If no one's in the station.
Hold on a minute. Now, hold on. A minute ago, it's not a problem because we're sleeping. Now it's a security issue. Which way is it?
I'm not.
No. I'm saying if if they're there.
In the last meeting, you said that you walked in and there was no one there. You didn't say I couldn't find anyone. You said there was no one there, and the station was unlocked.
Okay,
If the
we're gonna
station's
play
unlocked,
semantics. We're not gonna sit here and play semantics, okay?
But there is a difference. I do understand what he's saying. Whether you couldn't find anybody or whether nobody was there are two different things if the station is
yeah,
unlocked.
I'm not trying to play any games. I would love to have open communication with you guys. I would love to, and I've tried. So please, here's the olive branch that I'm extending to you guys. Take it. Take it. You
I'm
have
in.
my phone number. We can meet anytime you want. I'm here most days, more than I probably should be. So, please, you want let's take the budget for example. We tried to have a meeting with you to go over the budget. We couldn't get a response. We were going to sit down with our financial planner and you and
do you know,
discuss.
let me be blatantly, bold-faced honest with you about that meeting.
Mhm.
Do you know how I felt about that meeting?
I don't.
I'll tell you exactly how I felt.
Please do.
I felt like it was going to be you, and Denise, and basically you're going to gang up on me and try to get me to be persuaded to do whatever that you wanted. That's how I felt, and I'll tell you why. No, you can laugh about it, but you sit up here on this board, or you sit back here as a resident, and you can feel the animosity between the two entities. And it's not good.
Yeah, I agree.
It's no
I would
different
love
than
to
how I
fix it.
feel. It's literally no different. I feel like because everybody thinks it's a conflict of interest, it's literally no different for me to have to sit here and be glared at and talked crap about by everybody else because I have a vested interest in this. At the end of the day, I'm still in the township. I still reside in the township. I live here. I pay these same taxes. How many times has my husband had to listen to me say, I don't want my taxes to go up either, so we need to figure this out. How can we keep this down? There's so many, I don't even want to say so many. There's what, 5 people here? It's laughable. Regardless, strength in numbers. The majority of people do not show up because they are 100% in support of this fire department. Regardless, they would not care how much money they have to pay in taxes to make sure that they have somebody that is going to show up and give adequate care. And let me say, I was deathly ill with COVID back in August, literally on my deathbed. And you best believe I wanted the best of the best to show up to make sure that I woke up to my kids and my husband the next day. So the same feeling that you get by saying that you had to go and meet with Denise and Chief and Scott is the same feeling that I get sitting in front of all of them. But I still show up. How many meetings have I missed? I still show up. I still do my due diligence.
I don't believe I missed any meetings either.
But you didn't do the meeting with him that he asked you.
And I explained why. Now, would you walk into a hospital?
I do every meeting. I literally do every single meeting.
Okay, excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, we're kind of
I am respectfully asking, okay, Eric has a good point. Everybody's making good points, but we are getting way off track here.
Yes.
Okay, so, staff retention, that's the next part of the agenda. Can we please move forward?
Yes.
Please.
Let's. Yeah, you had a question? I thought, no.
Thank you.
No, and we're gonna move on to the,
Are we not going to talk about the budget at all anymore? We're done with the budget?
I think we're done with it.
Okay, then I do have a question. I'm so sorry. So I just, because I'm not 100% familiar, I haven't always attended, I have questions. Budget estimate is 2.1, and we're estimated to bring in 1.1. Is that with the levy? Or is column 3 and column 5, do they get added together? Sorry, I'm looking at the notice to taxpayers one. I apologize.
That'd be the total sum, right? Asking. That should be the total sum for a question.
That is a question for the old financial advisor.
Oh, good, he's here.
I think I followed what you said, I'm not sure.
So my question is, Mr. Financial Advisor, our budget estimate is 2.1. Column 3 says that our maximum estimated funds would be 1.1. That's about $1 million off from the budget.
Yeah. And the difference is the remaining funding for the budget comes from a portion of the county income tax. We get a portion of that based on proportional tax levy.
Is that the tax levy in column 5?
No, that's actually not shown on the Form 3. That's a separate report that's generated by the state.
Okay.
In addition to that amount, we're also going to get, when people purchase their vehicles, there's registration fees. The township gets a portion of that. Between those two revenue sources, that's what's picked up. It gets the remaining funding for the budget next year.
So we are expecting that Madison Township residents will spend $1 million in fees for registering our vehicles?
No, it's a lot less. The majority of that's going to be the income tax monies that have been collected by the state that's sitting in trust right now.
Do we know the amount of that?
Yeah.
I apologize.
Let's see, we're going to get about $500,000.
So we'll get $500,000.
It's been certified. We're going to get a little bit more than 2 in a one-time distribution. And the rest is going to be vehicle registration fees.
So $500,000 plus another additional $200,000.
Yeah.
So $700,000 on top of our 1.1, and then the vehicle registrations to make up the
Vehicle
total.
registration and EMS fees.
So we're not budgeting outside of what we will bring in.
It should be a balanced budget based on projected revenues.
Okay, thank you.
Young man, what's your name?
Yes, sir. I'm Austin Monday.
You're a new firefighter, correct?
Yes, sir.
When did you start?
I've been here since about 2015, full time. Not even maybe a month ago. So
Well, I'm sorry you had to endure
I'm
this.
sorry?
I'm sorry you had to endure
No, not
this.
at all. No, I'm glad we're here and able to talk about things.
He's used to it.
and
He's been
hopefully
here since
you can
2015.
come out and
Yeah.
enjoy some breakfast with us.
Eric, did you have a final comment?
I guess what I just want to finish it up with, guys, is it's an interest of, I mean, you're only seeing a handful of taxpayers here, but, you know, we've got thousands of taxpayers here that if they knew what kind of situation their fire protection was in, they'd all be out here in the bay. We could have this bay full. I guess what I want to make sure you guys understand is this is more than just a 4-meeting-a-year issue, is we've got to do something to improve the services that we provide here. And we're not that far away from, it's hard to run a combination department without a full-time fire chief. Somewhere we need to be budgeting that in the near future as a full-time administrator. You can't have full-time employees and not have somebody in that office running full-time operations.
I would agree with that.
You can't have full-time employees and not give them any kind of benefits.
Well, Eric, do you think that if we going forward, if we go through with having the reports done and the board does start meeting with the fire
Sure.
department more, we
That's
can
where it
cut some
starts.
fat and then
I don't
slowly
think you're gonna be
start?
able to cut a whole lot of
There's nowhere
fat.
to cut.
Hold on.
Well, I don't feel like we need 5 take-home vehicles. I think that's a cut. So I think there are
Some
things that
point
the
we just
public
have-
sees as a
At
cut.
some point, we just have to realize that Madison Township is not Madison Township 1985 anymore.
No, I
We
wasn't even
have-
alive then, so.
We probably have 5,000-6,000 more homes now than we did then, and we really haven't done much different.
No,
Trudy, you can shake your head all you want, but get out and drive around.
I completely understand all that. I just think that maybe before the public is comfortable with us raising, I mean, obviously, I'm a libertarian, and I'm going to say that I am okay with this tax levy because I can afford to support my fire department, and I can afford to support my community with an extra, it'll be like $40 a year for me.
Sure.
Okay, so not a big deal. I can do that, and I think a lot of the public will be willing to do that. However, I do not think that we are 100% comfortable continuing to raise taxes with these levies, as we have done in the past, when we are seeing expenditures that we are not comfortable with. Or just if we were
Sure.
seeing line items, then we can talk about going forward. And I know that we need to hustle because things are falling apart on your end.
Well, it's the fire service in general. I mean, it's not just here,
No,
but you can't
My
get
husband's
people
in
to rush
Yankee.
out and risk their lives for nothing anymore.
I know.
It was a little different back in the day when we all lived at home, we worked on the farm, Or we worked somewhere where your boss could say, hey, the fire siren's going off,
Head home,
go,
right.
go to the emergency.
No, I
We
completely
We got paid
understand
nothing
that.
for it. We
But-
got paid
got paid
zero.
nothing.
I think that in
Yeah.
6 months, if we can see change made here, if we can reevaluate our budget, reevaluate some of the extra spending, which is the take-home vehicles, I think a lot of that spending
You're
can
right.
be cut. I am for new radios, monitors, and gear,
But I guess that's
But-
what I was getting at, is it all comes to management.
and it does, but I just,
If you don't have managers meeting with managers to work this out outside of the public meeting, you don't get anywhere.
right,
We're
but we
wasting-
wonst get anywhere yelling at each other either.
Wasting everybody's time.
Personally, I think what's happened is that's the rut we've gotten into from task boards and so forth.
Well,
I'm
let
not
me say
opposed
this, hiring this guy right here,
Yeah.
this is step number one. Get the financial advisor on board that knows how to work the numbers and taking a look at what the township's worth and what the real numbers are versus what we think they are, what somebody else brings in a meeting that really don't know what they're talking about. When you get somebody that actually knows what the township numbers are, what the net worth of the township is, and start working what that is, then you'll be able to see what you can do with the tax dollar. When you're talking about $100,000 house, and even if it takes $20, we talked about $20 earlier on a $100,000 house. I don't even think anybody's going to notice a $20 increase on their tax bill. And if they do, I'll be the first one to stand up and present that in a meeting what they're going to get for $20.
It was $2
And that's what I'm saying.
30 cents, not
But he was
20.
just
That's
saying
what I'm
even
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, worst case scenario was $20. $20 increase. When I dial 911 and my father's having a heart attack, and Medic 32's at Methodist right now because it's the only hospital open, and we don't have a crew for our second ambulance. Now I'm waiting on an ambulance from Green Township or White River Township. We got a problem, and that's a pretty consistent problem right now here in this township is we don't have anybody, and nobody knows that. And I tell you what, if I was sitting in your seats, I'd be pretty nervous right now, because you know whose name's going to be on that lawsuit when somebody gets hurt or killed. You're the ultimate legal responsibility for providing protection for my house, and you're doing nothing to improve it.
Well,
Nothing to improve it.
that's not true. I would humbly disagree with you.
You didn't even know there was a problem 5 minutes ago,
You're the
did
one.
you? Did you?
No, I know that there's a problem with maintaining health and the turnover. I know that. Scott and I were just discussing that. I served on the merit board for a while. I know that's a problem. I've even asked the chief about the turnover when I met with him. How's it going? What's the problem? What do we need to do? And at that point, I explained to him, or we talked about insurance, benefits. We talked about several things, did we not? Because, and I told him where I wanted to get to be, where we could possibly provide some of those things for our health. I'll be honest with you, I'm more concerned with taking care of the people than going out and necessarily buying new equipment. Maybe I have to buy used equipment to take care of my people.
Then why do you want to cut core assistance?
How many of you guys drive a 15-year-old car around?
I do.
Okay, does it go on emergency calls and you expect it to work at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Now, hold on a minute. I know where you're going with this. I've spent 25 years in the automotive business. I'm not a dummy as far as vehicles go. This 12 to 15 years on apparatus is not based on our locale and on our run load. It's based on metro areas. We can make our equipment go better. There are actually some fire stations that have their equipment rebuilt from time to time, and their equipment's 30 years old.
Sure, you know how they do that? They have a routine maintenance program.
Well,
And they have their own shops. We
Well-
don't have that.
But Chief and I have talked about routine maintenance also,
But
correct?
that starts as soon as you purchase the apparatus.
Exactly, and that's why ambulance 31 was in the shop for 9 months, and we had to put a new
It's in the
engine.
shop now.
It's in the shop now.
No, 32 says.
30,
This is the new one we just bought.
32.
Yeah.
Is it for maintenance?
Yep. Warranty.
Warranty.
Yeah, recall issue.
Well,
That's gonna
it had
happen.
a couple things on it.
And that's why we have a backup ambulance, and that's why I stood on Mike Lane's desk when he was here about having that unit out of service for 9 months. When I talked to him about that unit after, what?
It wasn't running.
Yeah, and you know what? You know how it got fixed? Let me tell you a little story. And that's where I was going. In January, I stopped by to sign some papers for Denise. Mike Lang happened to be sitting there. I asked him about that ambulance. He told me he couldn't get an ECM for it. Ford couldn't track one down. I said, take it out and have it rebuilt. What did he do? He had it took out and had it rebuilt. I had told him previously, prior to that, I said, if you need any help tracking down an ECM, or you need any help or advice, if you need me to find somebody for you that's more knowledgeable, let me know.
Appreciate that.
I never heard anything, okay?
I know the feeling.
I know, I'm sorry, but
So what do we gotta do at the end of the day? What do we gotta do to get everybody together here so that we can move forward, so that we take care of our guys that are working and we take care of the people who live in the township, instead of beating heads with everybody? Or if you guys don't wanna be involved in it, are you guys interested in giving up your power and letting the fire department form a district and letting a whole new board take over the leadership of the fire
The
First
department?
public's not okay with that.
well, first off, I don't consider it giving up power because I don't think I have any power, quite frankly.
Okay.
And so that
Because the county commissioners could
Like that.
appoint a fire district board and take over the.
I know they can, but we don't want that to happen. We would rather have
I don't
everything
think that.
One thing I know
here.
is
So can we work
politics.
together?
Yes, we can work.
Forward?
Oh, absolutely. We
Because
can
if
work
we
together.
can't,
I'm more than happy
that's
to work
kind of where we're
together.
headed.
And you know, bringing suggestions like that to the meeting are helpful. I don't want to butt heads with you. I think it's important that we do have communication. Just like Scott and I were talking about our turnover. And that's what's going to be next, our salary resolution. We're losing firefighters to Brown Township, to Mooresville, to Indianapolis. We're losing them
Losing
to everybody.
firefighters to McDonald's.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm not arguing that. Yeah. There's a salary resolution here to raise part-time and medic and volunteer, not on shift. And I think it's compared to what, you know, and I don't know if you were in these meetings or not, but there were times when I was sitting in that seat and I practically had to beg for the board to give the part-time guys and volunteers a raise because they weren't going to give them a raise. Now, this one that we've got proposed here today, I think is a pretty decent raise. Is it where they need to be? Probably not.
Have you ever asked the chief to maybe provide you with a salary study of surrounding departments to see where we compare with everybody else?
I don't know if they've done that or not.
Have you asked for it?
We
Well, I
were
can
talking
answer
about
that question. I did because, one, my son is applied to the other departments and works at the other departments, so I know what they're paying. And when I met with Tom, Chief Buckrout, to kind of present it, to at least be competitive, it's not going to be where we want to be, obviously, but we got to grow slowly, and as you know.
So why is Madison Township always okay with being less than all of our neighbors? Where are we ever gonna get anybody?
Nobody ever
If I
said
can
we're
go-
okay with it.
If I can go across the street into Brown Township or Decatur Township, or White River Township, or even Green Township, and make more money as a firefighter than I can make here, why is Madison Township Board always okay with, we'll just pay them less than everybody around us? Why do we think our people are worth less?
We
Why
don't think,
are we okay with that?
we don't, you know, you have
Very
a,
valid question.
No, I'm
Very, very.
It's a-
I'm
it's a valid
asking you as
question.
the board, the legal responsibility of
It's
the
a-
fire protection in Madison Township. I'm asking you why we're okay with that.
nobody, first off, like I said, nobody said we're okay with that, okay? The problem is, if you open your billfold and you've only got $20, how much money can you spend?
Sir, I pay taxes on 3 properties in this township. I don't have a problem paying people off of worth, as long as they're worth that.
But the problem is, if I don't have the money coming in to pay them, who's gonna pay them?
I don't think anybody's gonna have problems paying $20 a year.
I don't think that's gonna do it though.
$20 a year would make a big difference.
I mean, we'll do what we can, don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying, to be realistic.
Does anybody even
I
run
don't
the
think-
numbers? I don't even see that we presented you an option to even give these guys any benefits or a pay increase.
We have not presented any benefits.
Why haven't we?
There's no money.
You gotta have
We're-
the money to do it with.
Barely going to bring in enough to cut even on a balanced budget this year. If we can consider, I mean, if I'm gonna advise, I'm going to ask my board and my trustee to approve this tax levy against my,
So what's this
everybody in my party's gonna fire me.
Because
Because-
$36,000 over
Are you
the
a
next 3
taxpayer or
years.
not part of the board?
I am a taxpayer.
Okay.
But I'm in
I
a,
just.
What are we gonna do with this $36,000 over the next 3 years that we're doing this levy increase?
but I can still give my
What's this
opinion.
for?
So we
What's this
can make more
emergency
money
that we're
next
having
year.
$36,000 for.
I don't
Nobody
think we've
knows.
discussed that yet. You know what, here's what happened. Let me explain something to you.
I'm just asking the question, what's it for?
I know. I don't know, because what
So couldn't
happened,
this be for benefits? Could we add on to this for benefits?
Can I answer your
and
question?
increase? I'm asking, I'm waiting.
well, you keep talking, and I'd like to answer your question. We don't really know, because what happens a lot of times to us as a board, some of the information we don't get till that we're gonna vote on or whatever, till 2-3 days before. I've asked before that we get that information what?
We tried to have a meeting with you last week.
When did you get the information?
The problem is.
We tried to have a meeting, you just said that you didn't want to have a meeting with us because you were afraid you were gonna get beat up on.
That's exactly right.
And I will say, I will say, the communication.
Hold on a minute.
Hey,
It can be-
hang on, Larry, because this is something that's pretty important. You as the chairman are responsible for reaching out to the board members and asking when they're available to do this budget hearing. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that is your due diligence to do that. I will say the only reason that talk about a date even started is because I sent out an email because I had heard through the grapevine that a date had already been set, and I thought I wasn't privy to it, so I wasn't very happy. Also, I didn't get responses from either of you two until 7 days later. I think that there needs to be something done where either emails are being checked more frequently, or is there something that we can do to where the communication between us and them isn't taking a week or 2 weeks or 2 months? Like, if Chief sends out an email like he said, I responded right away. There has to be something maybe that all of us can kind of work together to figure out how to get a response a little bit in a more timely manner. Because I think maybe stuff could have been posted out there a lot sooner to give the public access to stuff, but nobody was getting responses.
Well, Amy, real quick, I went ahead and set the dates at the 7th and whatever it was originally to be in compliance and get the information out there because I was waiting on to see when you guys could all get together.
I think part of the problem, though, too, is I had emailed Scott earlier and asked him approximately when the meetings were going to be, because we were going to schedule a vacation. And we're not always available by cell phone when you are on vacation. So I'm just saying, and he told me he couldn't tell me when they were going to be, because we could have arranged our vacation time.
Well, that's your husband's job.
Well,
He's the one that should have reached out and said,
But it
hey,
doesn't-
we're gonna be on vacation this day to this day.
Well, we didn't have it planned at that point. I was just asking a general question to find out when the meetings might
Shirley,
be.
just real quick. This is a financial board meeting, not a trustee meeting. I'm just set them up because I don't have a choice. But we was prepared weeks ago. But until somebody says, hey, this is when we're gonna meet, I just put it off as long as until I finally just said we can't wait any longer.
I'm going to say one thing about this, and we're moving
Yeah,
past.
thank you, Larry.
Okay, and that was that I requested the preliminary budget through email and didn't receive it until shortly before. So that's all I'm going to say.
Thanks, Bob.
Let's move on. Salary resolution.
My problem wasn't resolved. And you can be angry all you want, but I'm trying to figure out.
Don't raise your voice with me,
Okay.
woman.
All right.
Larry and Jim,
Hang on.
you're ridiculous. Anyways, is there a way that we can get communication better?
Don't you either.
Sit down, Rick. You ain't gonna do shit, bud. Sit down.
Really?
Sit
Don't
down.
you start with me.
Sit down, bud. Don't
You're
be
a
hurt.
piece
Sit
of
down.
trash.
Sit down.
Rick.
Why are you yelling at a woman like that, bro?
Why can I not
You
be
gonna
Yelling at you
this
that way,
better?
same thing.
Fellas, both of you.
Is there a way that you guys prefer communication?
You
And,
ain't
and,
counted
and if that is not appropriate for you, that's fine. Would you prefer a phone call? I'm being honest here.
I'm the problem.
So you prefer a phone call? Okay.
Okay.
Do you prefer it through your Madison email, or do you have a personal email that you prefer? You prefer, okay.
Because I will check it daily. I think what we'll do is do group EA. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I personally think that is gonna solve a lot of the communication problems. So Jim prefers a phone call, and that's fine.
Okay.
You prefer an email, we would still obviously always CC you on the email.
I'll still send you.
We got about 60 since I got this job.
You'll probably get some more, so it's all right.
I don't know why that's such a ridiculous
It's not, we need to,
question or resolution.
okay, yeah, what's it? Ben, Mr. Ben, we have this petition to appeal for an increase in the maximum levy. So it's a 3-year growth of 12,000 for the fire levy and a 3-year growth for the $1,200 for the civil levy. And there's a property tax shortfall for 30,000. Can you?
Is there a shortfall for 30? It should be 0. It'd be misprinted.
Okay. Could you briefly explain that to all of us so we know what?
Yeah, the basis is that there's certain ways we can increase our maximum tax levy for operations. One of them is the property value for the township increases faster than the state average. Since 2018, 2021, township-wide property value increased by nearly 25%. As a result, we can now go ahead and appeal to the state to go ahead and increase the tax levy, permanent increase going forward. It's subject to state approval. The figure before was $2.30. I should add to that that's an assessed value of $100,000. For a homestead, $200,000. When you figure deductions, you're going to be down to about $97,000, about $2.30 on a $200K property. $100,000 homestead has to be assessed about $30,000 after all the deductions, so it's less than $1. And those are probably the best numbers to work from.
And do you know approximately how much that would bring in a year?
Yes, it'd be a little over $10,000 for the fire, and then about $1,000 for the general.
So these numbers would be what we'd be looking at.
Yeah.
So basically, we'd be looking at 12,000 in fire that we could use for either wages or whatever. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would take effect next year if we voted it.
Yeah, what would happen is we voted on it tonight, would take effect, we would send the petition to the state for approval, and assuming they approved it, then the tax levy would take effect next year, and based then on the proposed budget, we would have a level tax rate even with the appeal. So.
What did he say was 0 on here?
The 30,000.
30,000, that's supposed to be 0.
0?
Does that increase, it says 3-year growth, does that increase then every 3 years for the next 3 years, or is this just a this year increase?
This is based on property value growth over the past 3 years.
So this is just a one-time?
It's a one-time thing, but if property values continue to increase in the future, we'll be eligible to apply
In the future.
But it'd be again subject to board approval again next year. So
But this is something we don't want to pass up, right?
typically, units don't whenever it's a permanent increase.
If we didn't do it, other than us not getting the $12,000 extra next year, would there be any hindrances as to the board approving this next year instead, if they decided to wait?
If they would need to do it based on growth from 2018 to 2021. Now, property values are continuing to increase for page 2022, so likely to be eligible again next year, but nothing's 100% certain.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to the salary resolution. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we have to.
We'll have to. I want to move on to the salary resolution first.
On the salary resolution, there is one typo, and it's under station captain.
Should be $1.50.
Should be $1.50, and that's no change from last year.
Station captain.
Station captain should be $1.50 instead of $1. And that's no change from 2021.
Yeah, I read that, kind of scratched that here.
I see it. Okay.
The only changes are highlighted in the
Yeah, fire part-time, EMS, or paramedic rather, filling.
correct.
And we currently have a paramedic filling.
I'm sorry?
We currently have a paramedic filling, or no?
All of our paramedics are considered full. They're not. We don't have any full-time paramedics.
The volunteers, go from 12, what was it,
1175.
11.75 to 13 and a quarter.
Yeah.
And the firefighter part-time goes from 12
Same.
something. Yeah.
Firefighter part-time and firefighter volunteer are basically
They go to the same.
They're both part-time firefighters. One is assigned to a dedicated 24-hour shift. One fills holes as needed.
And all the rest would stay the same, correct?
Yeah.
Have any questions on that?
Nope.
Any questions? Anybody? Go once?
Ooh, sorry. What's the investigator do? Is that just like for arson and stuff like that?
Field
No.
numerous calls for people who may be down on their luck.
So that's the
not
township
just-
assistant.
Yeah, that's
Township
So-
assistant.
This is more relief.
I'm just asking for clarification.
No,
Please don't
that's
feel
fine.
attacked.
No,
Does this
yeah.
money go to you in addition to your salary?
Yes.
So you are the highest paid employee of the township,
Roughly.
technically.
I
Okay.
guess by a few bucks.
No,
No,
it's
the
by
paramedic-
$8,000 because he's
No.
paid less than you now.
No, you have paramedics that are paid way more than she is.
I'm
She's talking about
concerned about
No,
the
township.
government,
Yeah,
She's,
just-
yeah, she's just
not the
referring to
employees, the government of this township.
But she's an employee, she's not part of the government. She's an employee, she's not an elected official, so it's an actually employee position.
Okay.
So
Right, she's hired by the trustee.
just a little bit.
I wasn't attacking you, just clarifications.
Okay,
You can see why everybody always feels attacked, though.
I'm good at
Like-
attacking people too, so.
No, nobody can ask simple questions without feeling like everybody is attacking. I'm just the only one that gets
But
it.
guys, you know how to fix this, is we present this and we explain it ahead of time, so that everybody knows what it is before we get to this meeting, and then there's no feeling of that.
Except that it would be illegal unless you guys individually met one-on-one with, and so that I can see where it becomes a constraint for the firefighters to take that time off of runs. Chief Buckrop is there working overtime, we're filling in gaps, so he's gotta take time off of actual firefighter work to meet with each person individually on the board. And I like them being able here, and we get to find out all the juicy stuff, because then we know what's really going on behind the scenes.
do I have a motion to accept to adopt this
Which one you want?
The resolution.
salary resolution?
Well, that's for next meeting.
Next meeting.
Yeah, and I'll make,
That's right. We
I'll
just-
make the
we
change.
talked about
This
Yeah,
is
we're
just
just
a
talking
hearing.
about it.
You're correct.
Okay, so we'll only get.
But
I'm
the,
glad-
this we have to vote on.
Yeah.
The tax levy does need to be voted on.
That's why I asked. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I'm glad
I
you
was
said-
okay. I was like, wait a minute, what are we doing?
Nope, this one
No,
has
it's
to be
been
voted
long
on
and
though.
hard, so I'm glad you said
No worries. I just wanted to make sure we was on the same page. Thank you.
that. All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt this.
Okay, Jim makes the motion.
This is a petition to appeal for increase. the
Petition to
maximum
increase. Yep.
as written in correction.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
I have a second from Amy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. It is adopted today.
Which is sent in the form.
This
What
one.
it is and what's for. Let me get the comments for this.
You guys will vote on the levy and on the 26th as well,
On the what?
the levy.
That's what they're.
That's what we just voted
I
on.
thought that, oh, okay, so that is going through.
Yeah, it had to be done this meeting.
Cool, cool, yeah, I got it. Too many things in my brain.
So can you put that with the signed meeting minutes for me? With the,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Do you get it back like that? Because I asked a question, at my meeting. I thought I was allowed to do that, but.
All right. I think. Is there any old business? Any old business? Did you have anything you wanted to share with us or no? Nope, nope.
And we kind of went over the maintenance stuff.
Okay. All right. There's no old business, any questions? Yes.
I would just like to make a summary statement very quickly, please. Eric made some very good points, and there's one thing that those of us who are not public safety, we don't understand everything that they do, that they need, and that they do for the public. And one of the main reasons, we've had a house fire, I still don't understand everything that's happened. So, when you have a chief and the other two extending an olive branch, I would, in support of Eric and everybody here and the community as a whole, that something does get done to bring you all together, maybe not at the same time, so there is a better understanding of what these guys do, of what these folks here do, what you guys do. Does that make sense? So I'm just asking that please take the olive branch. Please don't feel like you're gonna be attacked. If I'm asking you for a meeting with me, Tom, and or Scott, it's nothing. I'm trying to start a new page. I'm trying to start a new chapter.
Absolutely.
We need to get beyond the past and whatever's happened here. I don't know what's happened here, and you know, right now, I don't even know if I care what's happened here. I'm asking that we support what Eric is saying and what these people do for our community. And I brought that up at the taxpayer community meeting a few months ago. We've got to come together. Public safety, the community. We have to come together. But the understanding of what each other does and the knowledge, you have your knowledge, they have their knowledge. They don't understand what I do. He understands what I do. But not everybody here understands what I do. No, the community doesn't totally understand what they do. Not everything that these guys, they don't understand everything that you do. So I agree it's very important that we come together and we need to start a new chapter, new book, whatever it is. So that's all I have to say.
Guys, if there's time, we haven't done a very, I'll just be flat out. Jeez, sorry if I hurt your feelings, but we haven't done a very good job over the last several years of educating you on what this is and what that is and what our needs are. And some of that is due to time constraints and other commitments of what's going on in other people's lives. But if there's something that you guys feel you need that would help you understand better, or to break down that border, or if you just can't work with Jordan Russell, or if you just can't work with Eric Brown or Austin Monday, reach out to somebody else and say, hey, I can't work with this guy, but don't punish the entire department or the taxpayers in Madison Township because I don't want to call this guy back, or he don't want to call me back, and we can't meet, and then we can't get what the township taxpayers need. Does that make sense? And we got to quit looking at this place as being Madison Township 20, 30 years ago. Because I tell you, for the guys that respond every day, and the guys, I grew up here, take a look around. Our community is probably tripled in size as what it was 20 years ago. And this fire department hasn't. We're not much further where we were 15 years ago. We started paid standby in '95. What is this? 22? How many years is that?
They're 50.
No, how many?
26. That's my brother.
Yeah. Yeah. And how many career guys do we have? We haven't done much in that period of time. And the only way you're going to get retention is giving them somewhere they want to work.
So
where they can afford to work.
Let me ask a question, because this question, we talk about career firefighters, and I have no problem with career firefighters. But my understanding is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or whatever, but I thought the object, to a certain extent, was to maintain it as a volunteer fire station as far as...
It's a couple people's ideas, guys, but hey...
No, let me finish.
I'm going to keep going with this because you're misunderstanding what's going on.
I'm not misunderstanding what you're saying. Let me finish
right,
what I'm saying here. I'm not misunderstanding what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is, in the past though, we've kept the guys on the bottom at 20,000 or below because we didn't want to lose our volunteer status. Has that gone away?
I'm never been concerned about that. I'm concerned about the residents. I'm not worried about that status.
Okay.
I think what you're confusing is a nonprofit corporation versus a career. But yes, there is benefits of having a nonprofit corporation where you have a volunteer fire department. You can still get grant monies and things like, you watch this Wayne Township crap right now, the mess they're in out there because of the nonprofit junk. Yes, there is some benefits for it if you manage it right, but that's not where we're at anymore. There is no volunteers here in Madison Township. Guys, what do we got, maybe two?
Yep.
Two?
Yeah.
And they don't even live in the township. So, you know, the purpose of a volunteer fire department is, hey, if the house is on fire down the street from you, you can get in your car and go to the firehouse and get a truck. So volunteers that live 10 miles out of the district don't do us any good.
So these numbers aren't, I mean,
You're
it
not
says,
paying any attention.
yes, I am.
What do they say?
Eric, don't be belligerent.
No, I'm asking, what do they say?
You are. You said I was looking at this, you said we have 2 volunteers. Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
So where
So
do
what
they
we're
live?
saying is this sheet is
How
wrong.
close they live?
Some of them don't even live within our
Larry,
township.
just let it go, that's stupid.
So when I wanna ask a question here.
I know what you're gonna ask.
Yeah.
So, a volunteer is considered under 20,000 a year. That's considered a volunteer. So, we have listed the firefighter volunteer not on shift. We have those listed as volunteers. Those are the ones that are not on a 24-hour dedicated shift. Those fill holes in our schedule as they're available and as we need them. So typically, those members make under $20,000 a year. They are still paid members,
Right.
but by the law, if they're under 20,000, they can be considered volunteers.
So they're considered volunteers. So we're talking about 2 different types of volunteers.
But what is the benefit of that? Chief, explain that to him. What is the benefit of being a volunteer fire department?
I was just trying to get at how many we have. I mean,
I mean, for you as the person doing the finances, what is the benefit of somebody being a $20,000 firefighter?
I don't see it.
There is no benefit other than you get a $1,200 insurance policy through the IBFA. That's the benefit of making $20,000. So you make $21,000, you lose that $1,200 insurance, which you could pick up as a board member. You could provide that insurance policy.
Providing we have the money to do so.
$1,200
Per individual.
if the guy even wants the life insurance policy.
So we're dealing with, right now we're dealing with hypotheticals, and we don't want to deal with hypotheticals. We want to deal with what we've got.
But I'm going back to your question, as I thought we were trying to keep everybody volunteer. I don't think, does anybody here want to be a volunteer
Okay,
firefighter?
so that was a misunderstanding on my part, and I
Yeah.
apologize for that. So we've got a misunderstanding there, but that's what I was told by someone who seemed to be in the know. So
Yeah.
we'll just forget that.
FLSA is pretty clear. FLSA is pretty clear on what firefighters are paid, and there's no stipulation whether they're a full-time or volunteer or whatever. The only benefit by being a volunteer is you get some benefits through the IBFA, and those are not worth being a volunteer for.
Well, let me throw this out for you, and I'm just brainstorming here. What if we had a fire department advisory board, so to say, that could sit down with board members from time to time?
I think that'd be a great idea.
You know, you take 3 or 4 guys and start talking about the station, what's going on, what we're spending, and then start bouncing ideas off of each other, how we can improve things.
I think that'd be the first step of trying to get everybody on the same page and trying to get it moving. Because we're way behind the 8 ball at this point. I mean, that doesn't mean that everybody's always going to agree on everything.
Well, no, that's why you have an advisory board, because nobody.
Sure.
I'm just throwing that out for
Or just a committee.
Yeah, you can have a committee.
advisory board committee, whatever you want to call them, just somebody that you can sit down with and say, this is.
But it still takes that effort of people wanting to get together. I mean,
I'd be happy with just starting with us, and then if we can get that going, then sure. But
It's gonna take some effort on both sides though, Eric.
sure.
You know, when you got I hate to say it, when you got fire trucks in Mooresville at the store and you're talking about taking care of the community and your response times are 6 minutes longer than what they should be, it's a real problem. People have a real complaint. And when my neighbor's house caught fire, we all know how rapid fire spreads nowadays with new construction. If they would have been any more than what they were, would have been a whole lot worse of a fire. But because they were there in 3 minutes, you had young, aggressive firefighters that go inside, not spray water in the window like we had in 1980. They had that fire knocked out in less than 3 minutes. And they sustained minimal damage at Christmas time. So, I mean, it's going to take some give and take on both sides. All right? I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful towards the firefighters here, but when I look back here and I see this whole room of firefighters and they're dressed in t-shirts and shorts and hats and they don't look respectable and professional, what's the public going to think? You want to start bringing more public in here and you want to make people more aware, you better damn well look professional and like you're worth more money. I got a problem with that. I got a problem with that. All right, and we're talking about buying ladder trucks when we got aging engines. What's more important? Water or a ladder? What's more important? I watched you guys run the heavy rescue on fires for a long time with no hydrants out here. You're running a heavy rescue as a fire truck to be a ladder company. Bring the water. Fires don't go out without water. So I mean, there's going to be some give and take here.
I will say, my husband, you are not going to find anybody in the surrounding area that is more spot on when it comes to uniforms. He drills that into these crews every single day. He writes people up every single day for this. He is huge on that.
Good.
But what I will say is, at least they're showing up. At least they're here.
I mean, I'm assuming they're on shift, right?
But that's what I'm saying. At least they're here.
Not all of them was.
At least they're showing up. And
you understand what I'm saying, though?
Absolutely. But please understand, these guys are being paid minimal amounts. They're doing the best they can.
I get that,
with
but
what
we have
they've
gotten
got.
to a point where everybody is so mad they can't see through their anger. Okay?
Trust me,
So when you
I'm
come
aware.
in here and you're scowled on both sides of things, all right, Rick, you've been coming to meetings for a long time upset, have you not?
About 40 years.
Yeah, okay. We can't even see through our anger at this point. All right, we all just got to grow up and get through it. I mean, this is an absolute train wreck of a meeting. I've been to 2 meetings I've lived out here since 2006. I've been to 2 meetings. This is my second one. This is an absolute train wreck.
It's been worse.
I know. And that bothers me even more. I'm embarrassed for the community. But Eric's right. Eric is right. As Indianapolis gets more and more violent, people are going to be pushed out. And they are being pushed out. And they're going to come down here. And when things start to develop on Man Road, it's going to get even worse. But they do have an ignorant expectation of what they're going to get because they're coming from Indianapolis that has endless resources. So to say that they don't expect things, like they're up to par on what we actually get, is false. They don't know. They do not know. They don't know. If that makes any sense. We can do better. What's that?
Oh, I didn't say.
Yeah, you did.
No, you didn't.
Okay. I'm just amazed at how big of a train wreck this meeting was. I had legitimate questions I wanted to ask about some apparatus. I'm not even going to bother with it now because we got so far off course. It's crazy. You do need accountability. You need leadership.
I was completely blown out of the water when I tried to do that when I was the chairman. I had so many people against me for putting a 3-minute time limit on when people could speak, and they could only speak on what was on the agenda, and they had to wait until the end of the meeting. The amount of pushback that I got from that, I let him become chairman, and he can handle that now. Even as a board member, I can't even ask a simple question as in, what is the best way to reach my fellow board members without having people in the community acting like a gorilla? Like, you say it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
It's absolutely ridiculous that this is my job. I'm being paid to do this. And the question that I'm trying to ask my fellow board members can't even be respectfully answered because they just want to find a reason to attack me. That's all it boils down to. He doesn't like me, so he wants to find a reason to
I get
attack
that.
me.
That's kind of where I was going with the whole truck and the Mooresville thing. It gives them fuel. It fuels their
it
fire.
does.
All right, but it does have some legitimacy. And there are things the department does that should be changed. and that's one of them. If you don't give people like this a reason to bitch and complain, it's gonna stop.
That takes you as the people that are responsible to manage who the people are that you put in charge. I mean, if you come in here constantly knowing that these problems exist,
Well,
and if you don't do something about it with the people that you put in charge,
no, hold on a minute.
it's not gonna change.
This man hires this man, okay? So those are two guys that are in charge, so to say. I can't set policy for the fire department.
We could have had 3 tankers.
Those two set policy for the fire department, okay? There are only certain things I can do. The money part is what this board looks at.
But you made a comment earlier about that gas or the gas receipt. That's like Chief Buckroff said, simple picking up the phone or coming into the office and asking, could handle that. You guys should have that working relationship.
Well, sometimes, I don't know if you understand this. I work a full-time job. Right. Let me finish before you say anything. So, I work 50 hours a week, and I'm sure Chief probably works that at times, 50 hours a week. And sometimes we get busy in our lives and we don't. And when we come to a meeting, we've got the time to ask a question, where other times we may fail to ask that question because we just get too busy. And it's partly an excuse, I admit it, but we do. We get busy and we don't pick up the phone, and it works both ways.
Larry, if you're too busy to do what you're asked to do as an elected official, maybe it's time to give it up. Because
you have no
we
idea.
elected you as our representative for fire protection in this township, and if you're telling us you don't have time to do it, please let us know, and we'll ask the commissioners to
You have no idea how much time I put into this. You have no idea.
I'm seeing it tonight.
No, you're not.
You're
You're seeing one part of it that's not happening, but you're not seeing all of it, okay? And we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I mean, I think we can do this all night.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I feel like the chief offered you an olive branch, and I think you guys should take advantage of it. And I think that a new transparent relationship should start right now. And it's all, I don't know where you put this on the internet or what you do with it.
Yeah.
But it's all here for people to see.
Yep.
And if you don't take advantage of that, that's on you.
I agree.
And I don't, I'm not saying fire department does everything perfect, because they don't, clearly.
No.
No department does.
Nope.
So take advantage of what's being offered all the way around the table, all of you guys. All the administration for the fire side, you guys as the board. Make this happen, because I have a sick wife and a severely asthmatic son that desperately need medical attention sometimes, and I want that to come when I call for it.
I can appreciate that.
And just like she was on her deathbed with COVID, these people need solid, professional people showing up to their house.
And that's one of the reasons why we have our own EMS rather than countywide.
Sure. And this bickering has got to stop.
I agree with you.
I mean, it's got to stop. I mean, like banging on the desk and projecting an aggravated state towards a woman on the board is just completely ridiculous. And I don't know why you put up with it. I mean, that would never happen anywhere else.
That's why I told them to sit down. That's why I also told you to sit down when you started going after them. Everybody, and I also told Amy to calm down. Everybody needed to calm down. I don't want to have to stand up and yell it. I mean, we're all adults here. We need to act like adults.
Well, I get it.
Anyways, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
Can we make note of the next meeting date, which is
Yes.
the 26th at 7 p.m.? Sorry.
All right.
We skipped that.
I was going to mention it, but I forgot in all the
What time?
all the hoopla.
7?
Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, guys.